The cage we all live in. Imagine waking up every morning in a cage, not a literal one, but a cage made of your own fears, desires, and doubts. You have everything you think you need, a comfortable home, a steady job, relationships. Yet, deep inside, there's a longing for something more, something that no amount of success, wealth, or recognition can satisfy. Sound familiar? Now, picture this, a bird trapped in a golden cage. The bars are polished, and food is always provided. To an outsider, it seems the bird has everything it could want. But the bird isn't happy. It doesn't want the luxury or the safety, it wants the open sky. Why? Because no matter how beautiful the cage is, it's still a cage. This, my friends, is the reality for most of us. We live our lives in cages we've built ourselves, cages of attachments, ambitions, and misunderstandings. We chase things we believe will make us happy, only to feel more confined and restless. What if I told you that the key to unlocking this cage has been within your reach all along? Why this video matters? In this video, we'll explore 108 profound life lessons from the Buddha. These aren't abstract philosophies or rules for monks in faraway monasteries. These teachings are practical, timeless, and universal. They address the real struggles we face every day: stress, dissatisfaction, confusion, and offer a clear path to inner freedom. But here's the thing, this path isn't about escaping life's challenges. It's about transforming how we approach them. It's about discovering that the freedom we seek doesn't come from changing the world around us, but from changing the way we see and respond to it. What's in it for you? Here's a glimpse of what you'll gain from watching this video. You'll learn why the things you chase, money, status, approval, can never truly satisfy you. You'll discover how to let go of the habits and thoughts that keep you stuck. You'll gain practical tools to create a life fill. This isn't about adding more rules to your life or becoming someone you're not. It's about peeling back the layers to reveal the wisdom and freedom that's already apace. Let me share something personal. When I first encountered the teachings of the Buddha, I was skeptical. Like many of you, I thought, how can ancient wisdom apply to modern problems? My stress, my responsibilities, my world, they're different. But then, I read a simple analogy from the Buddha: life is like holding a heavy glass of water. The longer you hold it, the heavier it feels. At first, I didn't understand. Then, one day, I noticed how I was holding on to every worry, every regret, every unfulfilled expectation like that glass of water. And it hit me, the solution isn't to fix the glass, it's to put it down. That single shift in perspective changed everything for me. And I'm here to share how it can change everything for you too. The power of stories. In this video, we're not just diving into philosophy. We're weaving these lessons through stories, some ancient, some modern, but all deeply relatable. Stories have a way of bypassing the mind and speaking directly to the heart. They show us what's possible, what's real, and what we can aspire to. For example, you'll hear about a fisherman who learns the power of letting go not just of his catch, but of his suffering. A traveler searching for treasure, only to find it hidden in the last place he'd think to look, within himself. A spider, quietly sitting in its web, teaching us about mindfulness and the art of waiting. Each story carries a lesson, a thread that connects us to the teachings of the Buddha and to each other. Stay with me. Here's why you need to stay until the end. The final part of this video will bring everything together. It's not just about learning what the Buddha taught. It's about applying it to your life. Right here and now. The closing insights will show you how to take these 108 lessons and turn them into a guide for everyday living, a compass that points to freedom. No matter where you are or what you're going through, if you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or unsure of your next step, this video is for you. If you've ever wondered why happiness feels fleeting or why you keep repeating the same patterns, the answers are here. So, take a deep breath, set aside your to-do list, your phone, your distractions. And give yourself this time. Let's step into this journey together, not as teacher and student, but as fellow travelers seeking something deeper, something truer. Because here's the truth. The bird in the cage doesn't need the door to open, it needs to realize it's always been open. Are you ready to fly? Let's begin. The cage of suffering and impermanence. The story of the merchant and the vase. Once, there was a wealthy merchant who treasured a delicate vase, a family heirloom passed down for generations. Every morning, he would polish it, admiring its intricate design and flawless beauty. To him, the vase wasn't just an object, it was a symbol of his success and family legacy. One day, as he was cleaning it, the vase slipped from his hands and shattered into countless pieces. The merchant was devastated. It wasn't because he needed the vase for survival, but because his attachment to its perfection had become a cornerstone of his identity. For days, he was inconsolable. But slowly, he began to reflect, why was my happiness tied to something so fragile? The vase was always destined to break. Though painful, this realization marked the first step in his journey to let go of attachment. The nature of impermanence. The story of the vase illustrates a core teaching of the Buddha. Everything in life is impermanent, anicca. Relationships, possessions, health, and even life itself are beautiful and meaningful but ultimately fleeting. When we cling to impermanent things, we suffer when they inevitably change. The Buddha often used analogies from nature to explain this concept. Life, he said, is like a river always flowing, always changing. The moment we try to hold onto the water, it slips through our fingers. But if we learn to appreciate its flow without grasping, we find peace in its beauty. The philosopher Alan Watts echoed this sentiment, saying, "The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance." A story from the Buddha's life, the mustard seed. Kisa Gotami, a young woman who loved her only child deeply, was devastated when he suddenly died. Stricken with grief, she carried his lifeless body from house to house, pleading with anyone who might revive him. Eventually, someone directed her to the Buddha. The Buddha listened with compassion and offered her a task. "Bring me a mustard seed from a household that has never experienced death. And I will restore your son's life." Hopeful, Kisa Gotami visited every house in her village. People were willing to give her a mustard seed. But when she asked if they had experienced death, the answer was always the same: yes, we have also lost loved ones. By the time Kisa returned to the Buddha, she had learned a profound truth: death and loss are universal. No one is exempt from impermanence. Her realization that clinging to what we cannot control deepens our suffering helped her find peace and begin her path to enlightenment. The story of the three pots. In one of his teachings, the Buddha described three pots to illustrate how people respond to the Dhamma. The cracked pot. This pot leaks water as soon as it is filled, symbolizing people who hear the teachings but fail to retain or apply them. The dirty pot. This pot is intact but full of dirt. So even if water is poured in, it becomes polluted. This represents people whose minds are clouded by biases and attachments, preventing the teachings from taking root. The clean pot. This pot is intact and pure, able to hold and preserve the water. It represents those who approach the Dhamma with an open, receptive mind and apply its wisdom to their lives. The Buddha taught that we should strive to be like the clean pot, clearing our minds of preconceptions and attachments so we can fully embrace the truth. Breaking free from the cage. The bird in the cage symbolizes our conditioned minds, trapped by ignorance and desires. We cling to the bars, believing they protect us, but in reality, they confine us. Our attachments, whether to possessions, people, or even our own identity, are like those bars. They create the illusion of safety while keeping us from true freedom. The Buddha's teachings on impermanence challenge us to see life differently. Instead of resisting change or clinging to what we have, we can embrace the natural flow of existence. Letting go doesn't mean we stop loving or caring. It means we stop holding on so tightly that we cause ourselves unnecessary pain. As the American thinker Mark Twain put it, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bowlines. Sail away from the safe harbor. Catch the trade winds in your sails. Explore. Dream. Discover. Additional stories of impermanence. The sand mandala. In Tibetan Buddhism, monks spend days creating intricate sand mandalas, beautiful, colorful designs made entirely of fine sand. Once completed, the mandala is ceremonially destroyed, and the sand is poured into a river. Why? The mandala serves as a meditation on impermanence. Its destruction reminds us that all things, no matter how beautiful or meaningful, are temporary. The value lies not in the final product but in the act of creation itself. This lesson aligns with the words of Maya Angelou. We delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely admit the changes it has gone through to achieve that beauty. The parable of the sandcastle. A group of children builds an elaborate sandcastle on the beach. Complete with towers and moats. They pour their energy into perfecting it. When the tide rises, one child cries in despair, trying to protect the castle. Another child smiles and says, "Let's build another tomorrow." This story mirrors our relationship with impermanence. We can resist and suffer, or we can embrace change and find joy in the act of creation itself. The Buddha and the flower. One day, the Buddha held up a single flower during a sermon. The audience was puzzled until one disciple, Mahakasyapa, smiled in recognition. He understood that the flower symbolized impermanence, its beauty lay in its fleeting nature. This story reminds us to live mindfully, appreciating each moment as it is. As mindfulness teacher John Kabat-Zinn said, "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." The rope and the elephant. The Buddha told the story of an elephant tied to a post with a thin rope. Despite its immense strength, the elephant remained tethered, believing it couldn't break free. This represents how we remain bound by attachments and fears. Even when we have the power to let go, recognizing impermanence helps us see that the rope holding us back is often an illusion. When we let go, we discover freedom. Key lessons on impermanence. Impermanence is universal. Everything changes: our relationships, careers, and even our identities. Accepting this truth allows us to live with greater peace and authenticity. Letting go brings freedom. Attachments create suffering by resisting change. Freedom comes from loosening our grip and embracing life's natural flow. Cherish the present moment. Life's beauty lies in its fleeting nature. By living mindfully, we can find joy even in impermanence. The open door. The teachings of impermanence are not a call to despair but an invitation to freedom. Like the bird in the cage, we often overlook the open door in front of us. Recognizing that everything changes allows us to stop clinging and start living. The realization of impermanence frees us to focus on what truly matters: love, kindness, and presence. The question is, will we step through the open door, or remain tethered to the illusion of permanence? The choice is ours. Cleansing the mind with the Dhamma. Imagine stepping into an attic that hasn't been touched for years. The moment you open the door, you're met with a musty smell, layers of dust, and cobwebs in every corner. Boxes are piled high, filled with items you've long forgotten. The clutter is overwhelming, and you hesitate, unsure where to even begin. But as you take the first step, picking up a single box and deciding what to keep and what to discard, you notice something remarkable. The space begins to transform. Light streams in from the small attic window, and the room, once overwhelming, becomes open and peaceful. The Buddha once explained that just as a dirty cloth cannot absorb dye evenly, a mind clouded by defilements cannot grasp the truth. Before dyeing the cloth, it must be washed. Similarly, Before wisdom can take root, the mind must be cleansed of ignorance, anger, and attachment. This analogy highlights the importance of effort. Washing a cloth takes time and care, just as purifying the mind requires consistent mindfulness and self-reflection. But the results are transformative, a mind that is open, clear, and receptive to the teachings. The story of Angulimala, a tale of redemption. One of the most inspiring stories of transformation from the Buddha's time is that of Angulimala, a feared bandit who had killed countless people. Angulimala was notorious for wearing a gruesome garland of his victims' fingers. His life was consumed by violence and hatred. One day, the Buddha encountered Angulimala in the forest. Instead of running away, the Buddha calmly approached him. Angulimala, intrigued by the Buddha's fearlessness, listened to his teachings. This encounter marked a turning point. Angulimala renounced his violent ways, became a monk, and spent the rest of his life practicing the Dhamma. Angulimala's story shows that no mind is too dark or broken to be cleansed. The Dhamma has the power to transform even the most troubled hearts. Tending the garden of the mind. The Buddha often compared the mind to a garden. Left untended, it becomes overrun with weeds, negative thoughts, harmful habits, and distractions. But with consistent effort, we can clear the weeds and plant seeds of kindness, wisdom, and compassion. Tending a garden requires patience. You can't expect flowers to bloom overnight, and you can't eliminate all weeds in a single day. Similarly, cleansing the mind is a gradual process. Each small act, whether it's forgiving someone, choosing patience over anger, or practicing mindfulness, nurtures the garden of the mind. As the American poet Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "The creation of 1,000 forests is in one acorn." Every small effort contributes to the larger transformation. The story of the broken jar. In another teaching, the Buddha described a water jar with cracks. Every time the jar was carried, water leaked out. The jar represents the mind, and the cracks symbolize distractions, defilements, and ignorance. To hold wisdom fully, the cracks must be repaired. This story reminds us that mindfulness and meditation are tools to seal the cracks in our minds. By addressing our weaknesses, we create a vessel capable of holding the clarity and peace we seek. A modern example, digital decluttering. In today's world, our minds are often cluttered by constant notifications, endless scrolling, and information overload. This digital clutter mirrors the mental attic filled with junk. Just as we clean a physical space, we must also declutter our digital lives. Try this. Take a digital detox for a day. Turn off notifications, avoid social media, and spend time in silence or nature. Notice how your mind feels when it's not bombarded by external distractions. This simple practice can act as a reset, helping you reconnect with the present moment. Key lesson: cultivating goodness. Cleansing the mind isn't just about removing negativity, it's about making space for goodness. Imagine trying to plant flowers in a garden filled with weeds. The flowers won't thrive until the weeds are cleared. Similarly, qualities like compassion, wisdom, and peace can only flourish in a mind free of clutter. The Buddha summarized this process with 3 simple principles. Avoid all evil, sabapapasa akaranam. Cultivate goodness, kusalasa upasampada. Purify the mind, sasata pariodapanam. By following these steps, we create a mind that is not only clear but also fertile ground for growth. The sanctuary within. Cleansing the mind is not a one-time task, it's a lifelong practice. But each small effort brings us closer to the sanctuary within, a place of peace, clarity, and joy. The Dhamma, like a broom in a cluttered attic, helps us sweep away what no longer serves us and make space for what truly matters. As we let go of anger, fear, and attachment, we uncover the radiant qualities that were always within us. Like sunlight streaming through a window, these qualities illuminate our path forward. The journey may be gradual, but every step brings us closer to freedom. The sanctuary you seek is already within you. All you need to do is begin. The inner journey to self-awareness. The story of the hidden treasure. There was once a man who heard tales of a hidden treasure far away, buried in a distant land. He left his home and traveled tirelessly, enduring years of hardship as he followed every clue and rumor. He crossed deserts, climbed mountains, and searched through dense forests. But the treasure eluded him. One day, utterly exhausted, he decided to return home. As he rested in his backyard, he noticed something unusual about the ground beneath an old tree. Curious, he began to dig. To his astonishment, he uncovered a chest filled with gold buried right where he had lived all along. This story beautifully illustrates a truth many of us overlook. The happiness and fulfillment we seek are not found in distant places or external accomplishments. They lie within us, waiting to be discovered. The misguided search for happiness. In modern life, we often resemble the man searching for treasure. We believe happiness will come with the next promotion, a bigger house, or the perfect relationship. Yet, even when we achieve these things, the joy they bring is fleeting. The Buddha taught that the true source of contentment is not outside ourselves but within. Consider the American culture of chasing success. Many people pour their energy into building careers or collecting accolades, thinking these will bring lasting happiness. But as the writer Henry David Thoreau famously observed, happiness is like a butterfly. The more you chase it, the more it will elude you. But if you turn your attention to other things, it comes and sits softly on your shoulder. This reflects the Buddha's insight that peace and fulfillment arise naturally when we stop grasping and start living with mindfulness. Insight, the true treasure lies within. The Buddha frequently emphasized the importance of turning inward. In the Dhammapada, he stated, "The mind is everything. What you think, you become." This idea is central to the Dhamma. Instead of searching outward, we are encouraged to direct our attention inward, observing the mind and understanding its workings. The practice of meditation is like digging for treasure in the backyard of your mind. At first, you may only find rocks and dirt, distractions, worries, and unexamined emotions. But if you keep digging, you eventually uncover something priceless. The clarity and wisdom that have always been there. The Buddha's own journey. The story of the Buddha's enlightenment is a perfect example of the inner journey. Siddhartha Gautama was a prince who had every worldly comfort imaginable. Yet he felt a deep sense of dissatisfaction and left his palace to seek the truth. After years of extreme ascetic practices, he realized that neither indulgence nor self-denial held the answers. Sitting beneath the Bodhi tree, he turned his focus inward, observing his thoughts and emotions with profound mindfulness. This inner exploration led him to enlightenment, a state of complete liberation from suffering. The Buddha's journey reminds us that the answers we seek are not found in extremes or external pursuits but in the quiet depths of our own minds. A modern parable, The Two Wolves. A well-known Cherokee story offers a similar lesson. A grandfather tells his grandson about a battle inside every person. A battle between two wolves. One wolf represents anger, greed, and fear, while the other represents kindness, compassion, and peace. The grandson asks, "Which wolf wins?" The grandfather replies, "The one you feed." This story echoes the Buddha's teachings about the importance of mindfulness and self-awareness. By observing our thoughts and emotions, we can choose which wolf to feed, nurturing the qualities that lead to inner peace. Personal reflection, observing thoughts like clouds. When I first started meditating, I thought the goal was to silence my thoughts completely. I believed that stillness meant having no mental activity at all. This misconception frustrated me, as my mind seemed to grow louder with every attempt to quiet it. But over time, I learned that meditation isn't about forcing the mind to stop thinking. Instead, It's about observing thoughts without judgment. Like watching clouds pass across the sky. Some clouds are light and wispy, while others are dark and heavy. But they all eventually drift away. This practice of non-attachment to thoughts brought me profound relief. It showed me that I am not my thoughts. They are temporary and constantly changing. By letting them come and go, I found a sense of spaciousness and calm that had always been within me. The simile of the lotus flower. The Buddha often compared the mind to a lotus flower. Lotuses grow in muddy water, yet they rise above the surface and bloom in pristine beauty. Similarly, our minds may be clouded by negativity and ignorance. But through mindfulness and meditation, they can rise above these conditions and reveal their true nature. This image is a powerful reminder that no matter how chaotic or cluttered our minds may feel, there is always the potential for clarity and growth. Practical application, turning inward. How can we begin this inner journey? The Buddha offered simple but profound tools. Meditation. Dedicate even a few minutes each day to sitting quietly and observing your breath. This practice helps anchor the mind and create space for self-awareness. Mindfulness. Pay attention to your thoughts and emotions throughout the day. Notice when you're caught up in worry or craving, and gently redirect your focus to the present moment. Reflection. Take time to ask yourself meaningful questions. What truly makes me happy? What am I clinging to that causes suffering? These practices don't require special equipment or a perfect setting. They simply ask for your willingness to pause and look inward. The story of the well. Another Buddhist parable tells of a man searching for water in a desert. He digs shallow holes in several places but never reaches water. Frustrated, he gives up. If he had focused on one spot and dug deeply, he would have found a wellspring. This story illustrates the importance of perseverance in the inner journey. True self-awareness takes time and consistent effort. But by going deep rather than spreading ourselves thin, we uncover the wellspring of peace and wisdom within. Key lesson: happiness is within. The greatest insight of the Dhamma is that happiness isn't something to achieve, it's something to uncover. We don't need to accumulate more to feel complete. We need to let go of what obscures our innate contentment. As American author and philosopher Joseph Campbell put it, the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. This journey of self-awareness is about peeling back the layers of conditioning, doubt, and distraction to rediscover the treasure that has always been within us. The inner treasure. The inner journey to self-awareness is one of the most profound gifts of the Dhamma. Like the man searching for treasure, we often look outward for fulfillment, only to realize that everything we seek has been within us all along. Through meditation, mindfulness, and reflection, we learn to stop chasing happiness and start uncovering it. The process may take time, but the treasure is worth it. A mind free from suffering and a heart filled with peace. The journey is yours to take. Begin today, and you may be surprised by what you find beneath the surface. The true meaning of merit. Merit, punya in Pali, is often misunderstood. In the Buddha's teachings, it's not about outward rituals or grand gestures. True merit lies in the purity of the mind and the intention behind an action. A small act performed with genuine compassion carries more weight than an extravagant deed done for recognition or pride. The Buddha once said, "Even a single drop of water, when given with a pure heart, creates an ocean of merit." This means that it's not the size of the act but the quality of the mind performing it that matters. Merit is about cultivating goodness, wisdom, and selflessness, qualities that bring us inner peace and benefit those around us. The story of the poor woman's lamp, one of the most famous Buddhist stories about merit, comes from the time of the Buddha. In the city of Rajagaha, people gathered to offer lamps at the Buddha's monastery. The wealthiest citizens brought large, ornate lamps filled with fine oil, hoping to gain favor and recognition. Among them was a poor woman who could only afford a small simple lamp. She filled it with a few drops of oil, lit it, and placed it among the grand lamps of the rich. despite its size. Her lamp burned brightly throughout the night, while many of the larger lamps went out. When asked why her lamp shone so brilliantly, the Buddha explained, "Her offering was made with a pure heart, free from attachment or desire for recognition. That purity gives her lamp its light." This story reminds us that the power of merit lies not in the material value of an offering but in the sincerity of our intentions. Analogy: the teacup. The value of a teacup lies not in its outward decoration, but in its emptiness, its ability to hold tea. In the same way, merit lies in the emptiness of ego and attachment. A person who gives with a humble heart, free of expectations, creates space for true wisdom and compassion to flourish. The emptiness of the teacup also symbolizes mindfulness. When we give or act without letting ego and self-interest fill our actions, we allow the essence of kindness and wisdom to flow naturally. Like tea filling a cup. The story of Vesantara, the ultimate gift. In Buddhist tradition, the Vesantara Jataka is a tale of ultimate generosity. Prince Vesantara, a previous life of the Buddha, was known for his boundless compassion and willingness to give anything to those in need. One day, a Brahmin approached him and asked for his beloved white elephant, which was vital to his kingdom's prosperity. Without hesitation, Vesantara gave it away. Later, he gave away his royal chariot, his possessions, and even his children and wife, believing that true merit comes from selfless giving. While this story is extreme and symbolic, it illustrates the principle that genuine merit arises from acts free of attachment. Vesantara's actions remind us that generosity is not about material wealth but about cultivating a heart that seeks to uplift others. Practical wisdom: giving without attachment. The next time you perform a kind act, take a moment to reflect: are you doing this for recognition, or from a place of genuine compassion? For example, if you donate to charity, do so without expecting your name to appear on a donor list. If you help someone in need, avoid seeking praise or acknowledgement. If you offer advice, do so without expecting others to follow it. Acts done with a pure heart create not only merit but also a sense of inner serenity. This selflessness aligns with what the Buddha called the gift of Dhamma, which surpasses all material gifts. The role of wisdom in merit. Wisdom, prajna, and merit go hand in hand. Without wisdom, acts of kindness can be misguided or even harmful. For example, giving money to someone in a way that enables harmful behavior, such as supporting an addiction, lacks discernment. The Buddha taught that all actions should be guided by mindfulness and understanding, ensuring they lead to genuine benefit. This principle is echoed in the concept of skillful means, upaya. An action is truly meritorious when it arises from wisdom and compassion, tailored to the needs of the situation. The story of the generous farmer. A farmer once approached the Buddha and asked, "What is the best way to make merit?" The Buddha replied with a simple analogy: "A field that is well plowed yields abundant crops." In the same way, a mind that is well prepared with wisdom and mindfulness produces great merit. The farmer reflected on this and realized that cultivating a generous heart was like preparing fertile soil. Each act of kindness, performed with clarity and sincerity, was a seed planted in this field, capable of growing into something far greater. Merit as a source of inner peace. True merit doesn't just benefit others, it transforms the giver. A mind free of greed, anger, and ignorance becomes serene, like a calm lake reflecting the sky. This inner peace is the ultimate reward of cultivating merit. When we give without attachment or expectation, we feel a sense of lightness and joy. This joy isn't dependent on the recipient's gratitude or acknowledgement, it arises from the purity of our own intentions. Modern applications, everyday acts of merit. In today's busy world, cultivating merit can feel challenging. However, it doesn't require grand gestures or significant wealth. Here are simple ways to practice generosity and wisdom in daily life. Give your time, volunteer for a cause you believe in, or simply spend time listening to a friend who needs support. Practice kindness, offer a smile, a kind word, or help to a stranger without expecting anything in return. Share knowledge, teach someone a skill or share valuable insights. Embodying the gift of Dhamma. Cultivate mindfulness, approach your actions with awareness, ensuring they are guided by compassion and wisdom. Each of these acts, no matter how small, creates ripples of positivity that benefit both you and others. Key lesson: merit and mindful living. Merit is not just about what we do, it's about how we do it. When our actions arise from selflessness and mindfulness, they create not only external good but also internal transformation. As the Buddha taught, the fragrance of virtue travels against the wind. The good deeds of a person spread far and wide. True merit leads to wisdom, and wisdom, in turn, enriches our ability to act with compassion. Together, they form the foundation of a life that is both meaningful and serene. The serenity of selfless action. Cultivating merit is about more than giving, it's about transforming the way we approach life. By letting go of ego and acting with genuine compassion, we create a ripple effect of goodness that extends far beyond ourselves. Like a teacup that finds its purpose in emptiness, we discover that true fulfillment comes not from what we gain but from what we give. This is the path of the Dhamma, a life of wisdom, merit, and inner peace. Let your next act of kindness be guided by this understanding, and experience the serenity that arises from selfless living. Overcoming cravings and attachments. The fisherman and the hook, a lesson in letting go. A fisherman sat by the edge of a lake, reeling in what he thought would be his prize catch. As he pulled harder, the fish fought back fiercely, and the hook dug deeper into its mouth. The struggle grew more painful for both the fish and the fisherman. Finally, the fisherman paused and realized the futility of his actions. He let the line go slack, allowing the fish to swim away. Surprisingly, instead of feeling disappointment, he felt a profound sense of relief. By letting go, he freed not just the fish but also himself. This simple story mirrors our struggles with cravings and attachments. The harder we cling to desires, the more they harm us. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning joy. It means releasing the false belief that happiness depends on external things. The Buddha taught that this act of releasing is the first step toward inner freedom. The nature of craving. Craving, tanha in Pali, is a central concept in Buddhism, identified as the root cause of suffering in the Four Noble Truths. It arises in three forms: craving for sensual pleasures, the desire for experiences like delicious food, luxury, or entertainment; craving for existence, the clinging to life, identity, or permanence; craving for non-existence, the desire to escape pain or unpleasant situations. The Buddha compared craving to a fire that consumes everything in its path. It promises satisfaction but instead leaves us longing for more. In the Dhammapada, he said, "The craving of one who lives heedlessly grows like a creeping vine. They jump from life to life like a monkey seeking fruit in the forest." The monkey and the jar. One of the most well-known Buddhist parables involves a monkey and a jar of sweets. A hunter placed the jar at the base of a tree, filling it with treats. The jar had a narrow neck, wide enough for the monkey's hand to enter but too narrow for a closed fist to withdraw. The monkey reached in, grabbed a handful of sweets, and found itself trapped. Unable to let go of the treats, the monkey became an easy target for the hunter. This story illustrates how our attachments trap us. The monkey's suffering wasn't caused by the jar or the sweets, it was caused by its unwillingness to let go. The Buddha's message is clear: freedom lies in releasing our grip on what binds us. The act of letting go may feel like a loss at first, but it ultimately leads to liberation. The simile of the burning coal. The Buddha often compared attachment to holding a burning coal. Imagine clinging to a fiery ember, hoping it will keep you warm. Instead, It burns your hand. The longer you hold on, the deeper the pain. Letting go may seem counterintuitive after all. The coal promises warmth, but it's the only way to stop the suffering. This simile reminds us that our attachments, whether to people, possessions, or ideals, often cause more harm than good. Recognizing this truth allows us to release the coal and begin healing. Modern attachments, the social media dilemma. In today's world, social media offers a vivid example of how craving manifests. Consider someone who spends hours scrolling through Instagram, seeking likes and validation. Each post they share becomes a hook, and each like becomes the bait. At first, this engagement feels rewarding, but over time, it becomes a source of anxiety and dissatisfaction. One day, this person decides to take a social media detox. The initial withdrawal feels uncomfortable, but as the days go by, they rediscover the joy of real-life connections, hobbies, and moments of silence. By letting go of their craving for online validation, they find a deeper sense of fulfillment. The Buddha's enlightenment, overcoming all attachments. Siddhartha Gautama's journey to enlightenment offers the ultimate lesson in letting go. As a prince, he lived a life of luxury and indulgence, surrounded by everything he could desire. But he found this life hollow and unsatisfying. Later, he turned to extreme asceticism, denying himself all comfort. This, too, left him unfulfilled. Sitting beneath the Bodhi tree, Siddhartha realized that neither indulgence nor self-denial could lead to liberation. The key was the middle way, a path free from craving and aversion. By letting go of all attachments, including his fear of death and longing for enlightenment, he awakened to the ultimate truth. This story reminds us that true freedom comes not from extremes but from balance and detachment. The story of the two arrows. The Buddha used the analogy of two arrows to explain suffering. The first arrow represents inevitable pain, such as illness, aging, or loss. The second arrow is the mental anguish we add by resisting or clinging to the situation. For example, imagine losing a job. The initial disappointment is the first arrow, but the endless self-criticism, fear of judgment, and worry about the future are the second arrow, suffering we create ourselves. Recognizing this distinction helps us let go of unnecessary pain. The simile of the lotus. In Buddhism, the lotus flower is a powerful symbol of detachment. It grows in muddy water but rises above it, untouched by the mud. Similarly, we can live in a world filled with cravings and attachments yet remain free from their influence. The lotus teaches us that it's possible to engage with life fully while maintaining inner freedom. Practical steps to overcome cravings. Mindful observation. When a craving arises, pause and observe it without judgment. Ask yourself, what am I truly seeking? Will this desire bring lasting happiness? Embrace impermanence. Remind yourself that all things, even pleasures, are temporary. By understanding impermanence, you can enjoy life's joys without clinging to them. Practice gratitude. Focus on what you already have instead of yearning for more. Gratitude shifts your perspective and reduces craving. Cultivate generosity. Sharing what you have weakens attachment. Whether it's donating possessions, giving your time, or offering a kind word, generosity opens the heart. Simplify your life. Reduce exposure to triggers of craving, such as advertisements or unnecessary possessions. A simpler environment fosters a calmer mind. The parable of the raft. The Buddha told a story about a man who builds a raft to cross a river. Once he reaches the other side, he realizes he no longer needs the raft and leaves it behind. This parable teaches us that even useful tools, like the Dhamma, must eventually be let go. Clinging to anything, even spiritual teachings, can become an obstacle. Key lesson: detachment brings freedom. Detachment doesn't mean giving up on life or becoming indifferent. It means releasing the illusion that happiness depends on external things. When we stop clinging, we discover a profound sense of peace and joy within ourselves. The Buddha said, "When one is free from craving, their mind becomes like a flame sheltered from the wind, calm, steady, and unshaken." This calmness is the essence of liberation. The liberation of letting go. Overcoming cravings and attachments is a journey, but every step brings us closer to freedom. Like the fisherman releasing the hook or the monkey letting go of the sweets, we realize that letting go doesn't diminish our lives, it enriches them. By loosening our grip on desires, we can live with greater clarity, gratitude, and peace. The path of detachment isn't about losing, it's about gaining the ultimate freedom, the ability to live fully, without being bound by the illusion of permanence. This is the gift of the Dhamma, the art of letting go and finding liberation within. Universal truths and practical applications. The web of life, a lesson in awareness. The Buddha often spoke of life as interconnected, like a web where every thread affects the others. Imagine a spider sitting at the center of its web. Every vibration, whether from a gentle breeze, a trapped insect, or falling debris, alerts the spider, enabling it to act precisely. This analogy reflects how mindfulness works. Just as the spider is attuned to its web, we can train our minds to be aware of the vibrations of life, thoughts, emotions, and external events. Mindfulness doesn't shield us from life's challenges, but it helps us respond wisely rather than react impulsively. The analogy, when you know one, you know them all. The Buddha said, "When you know one, you know them all." This profound statement refers to the principle of universal truths. Understanding one aspect of reality, such as impermanence, allows us to grasp its presence in all things. Think of it like recognizing a species of bird. Once you've studied its markings, calls, and behaviors, you can identify it anywhere, whether it's perched in a tree or flying across the sky. Similarly, if you deeply understand the impermanence of a single flower wilting, you start to see impermanence in relationships, possessions, and even your own life. This insight reshapes how you perceive the world, fostering acceptance and wisdom. For example, observing the seasons change reminds us that all things, joys and hardships, are temporary. This understanding allows us to savor the present moment while preparing gracefully for inevitable changes. A story from the Buddha's teachings, The Poisoned Tree. A group of monks once asked the Buddha how to navigate life's challenges. The Buddha replied with a story. There was a poisonous tree in a village. Its fruit, though beautiful, was deadly. The villagers decided to cut it down to prevent harm. However, a wise traveler passing through stopped them and said, "This tree can also be medicine. Its bark, when used correctly, can cure illnesses." The Buddha explained, "Like the tree, life's challenges can appear harmful, but with wisdom, they become opportunities for growth." This story illustrates that awareness and discernment transform how we perceive difficulties. A mindful approach to life reveals that even suffering holds the potential for learning and liberation. The story of the spider's resilience. A monk once observed a spider weaving its web in the forest. After hours of tireless work, a strong gust of wind tore the web apart. The spider didn't hesitate or despair. It simply began rebuilding, thread by thread, with the same patience and focus as before. The monk shared this observation with the Buddha, who said, "The spider teaches us resilience. Life will often destroy the webs we weave, but mindfulness allows us to rebuild with grace and wisdom." This story reflects the universal truth of impermanence. Challenges are inevitable, but mindfulness enables us to face them with courage, creativity, and calm. The power of observation, seeing beyond the surface. One of the Buddha's most profound teachings is that reality is deeper than it appears. Take the example of a wave on the ocean. At the surface, it rises and falls, seemingly separate from the water. But when you look closely, You realize that the wave is not separate, it is the ocean itself, momentarily taking a different form. This insight reveals our interconnectedness. We often see ourselves as distinct individuals, isolated from others and the world around us. Mindfulness helps us break down these illusions, fostering a sense of unity and compassion. A modern story, The Cup of Tea. A Zen master invited a scholar to tea. As the master poured, he kept filling the cup until it overflowed. The scholar exclaimed, "Stop! The cup is full." The master replied, "Exactly. Your mind is like this cup, so full of opinions, that it cannot take in anything new. Empty it, and you will be able to receive." This story highlights the importance of humility and openness. To understand universal truths, we must let go of preconceived notions and approach life with curiosity and receptivity. Practical applications, bringing universal truths into daily life. Embrace impermanence. The next time you encounter a flower, pause to admire its beauty. Watch as it begins to wilt and fade over time. Recognize that its impermanence doesn't diminish its beauty, it enhances it. Apply this understanding to your relationships, cherishing them while accepting that they, too, are transient. Practice mindful breathing. When overwhelmed, take 3 mindful breaths. The first breath anchors you in the present moment. The second breath observes your thoughts and emotions without judgment. The third breath releases tension and brings clarity. This simple practice helps you navigate challenges with calm and insight. See interconnectedness in action. Notice how your actions ripple outward. A kind word can brighten someone's day, just as a negative comment can cause hurt. Recognizing this interconnectedness inspires us to act with compassion and intention. The simile of the salt water and the fresh water. The Buddha once compared suffering to salt. If you dissolve a handful of salt in a small cup of water, the water becomes undrinkable. But if you dissolve the same salt in a vast lake, the water remains fresh and pure. The salt represents life's difficulties, while the water symbolizes the mind. A narrow, reactive mind magnifies suffering. Like the small cup, but a spacious, mindful mind absorbs challenges without being overwhelmed. Like the vast lake. This simile teaches us to cultivate a spacious mind through mindfulness and reflection, allowing us to navigate life's difficulties with resilience and grace. The story of the forest fire. The Buddha once told a story of a forest fire. As flames swept through the woods, most animals fled in terror, but a small bird stayed behind, dipping its wings in water and flying over the fire to release a few drops. When asked why, the bird said, "I may not extinguish the fire, but I want to do my part." This story emphasizes the universal truth of interconnectedness. Even small acts of mindfulness, kindness, or wisdom can create ripples of positive change. We may not solve every problem, but our contributions matter. Key lesson: engage with life fully. Mindfulness isn't about escaping life's challenges, it's about engaging with them fully and wisely. By understanding the universal truths of impermanence, interconnectedness, and resilience, we learn to navigate life with clarity and compassion. As the Buddha taught, peace comes not from avoiding the storm but from finding calm within it. This is the essence of mindfulness. Meeting life as it is, with an open heart and a steady mind. The path to wisdom and liberation. The Buddha's teachings on universal truths offer profound guidance for living a meaningful life. By recognizing impermanence, embracing interconnectedness, and practicing mindfulness, we transform not only our understanding of the world but also our relationship with it. Like the spider rebuilding its web or the bird facing the fire, we learn to approach challenges with resilience and grace. Each moment becomes an opportunity to deepen our wisdom, cultivate compassion, and engage with life fully. The journey toward wisdom and liberation begins, not in distant places but here and now in our thoughts, actions, and awareness. This is the power of the Dhamma. It illuminates the path to inner peace and universal harmony, guiding us toward a life of purpose, joy, and freedom. The path to freedom. The Buddha's teachings are not esoteric doctrines reserved for monks, scholars, or distant times. They are a guide, a timeless, practical path for anyone seeking freedom from life's struggles. The wisdom of these 99 lessons isn't found in memorizing them or contemplating their beauty from afar. It's in living them, step by step, moment by moment. Final story: planting the seed of transformation. Consider the humble act of planting a seed. At first, it seems like nothing is happening. You water it, nurture it, and wait. But the ground shows no sign of life. Then, one day, a small sprout breaks through the soil. With continued care, it grows into a strong tree, offering shade, flowers, and fruit. The Dhamma works in the same way. The seeds of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom may seem small and insignificant at first. You might wonder if they will ever make a difference. But over time, with patience and consistent practice, they transform your life from within. The seemingly ordinary actions, pausing to breathe, showing kindness, or reflecting on impermanence, are the roots of profound liberation. The journey to freedom. Freedom, as the Buddha taught, isn't found in acquiring more or controlling life's circumstances. It's discovered in letting go, in understanding the impermanent nature of all things, freeing ourselves from cravings, and embracing the present moment fully. This path isn't about perfection or grand gestures. It's about small, intentional steps. Meditate for just a few minutes each day. Practice kindness, even when it's inconvenient. Observe the beauty of a moment without clinging to it. Reflect on impermanence, allowing it to deepen your appreciation for life. Each step may seem simple, even mundane, but together they pave the way to profound freedom, the open sky that has always been within your reach. The call to begin. The Buddha's final words to his disciples were simple yet powerful. Be a light unto yourself. Strive diligently. The teachings are here to guide you, but the journey is yours to walk. You don't have to start perfectly or know every answer. Just start. Plant the seed. Water it with mindfulness, patience, and kindness. With time, the fruits of peace, clarity, and joy will blossom in ways you never imagined. The open sky of liberation awaits, not in some distant place, but right here, within you. Take the first step, and discover the freedom you've always yearned for.